Okay, I'm gonna do another video. This is the vinyl haul for February 2017. Again, after I started collecting vinyl, I'm gonna create a playlist, a Spotify playlist for at least one song from every of these albums. I've been actually making these playlists and listening to them myself, just to kind of, have something to listen to for my collection. Because some of these records I don't pull out very often. But I'm going to start with metal records that I bought, and then I'm going to continue to some other genres, rock and stuff like that I bought in February 2017. So this is basically the third month of collecting records. And right now in my collection, I'm close to 2,000. So there's quite a few records to go. Record I bought that came out August 4th, 1975 is the first record from Rainbow, or Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. This is a record with obviously Dio singing vocals. Man of the Silver Mountain, everybody knows that song. A bunch of other songs on here. So many bands, especially power metal bands now, owe a debt to this record, for inspiring power metal and a lot of fantasy elements in music, fantasy genre like dragons and stuff, and just cool stuff like that. Dio was a great lyric writer. Not much to say about this record except that it's great, and that was one of the records that I bought in February. He still has somebody put a sticker on here, September 75, which is well, that must be when they bought it, because it came out in August 75. So if that's accurate, they bought it pretty much right after it came out. So this is probably, one of the very first pressings of this album, which is great. And it has a really cool gatefold. With the band, of course, Ritchie showing off and the band in there. Bunch of cool pictures. Great live band too. I have the live album that they did. And, I know Dio says, there was no overdubs on that live record, which is great. So, they were really cool live. And another record that I bought in February came out July 2nd, 1984. Another Dio record, Last in Line. I got really lucky this month as well. Like, a lot of stuff that I got early on was, just either stuff I found. Still, it's the same. You find stuff, and then, you sort of look for stuff. I found this in the bins and picked it up immediately. Yeah. Dio, Last in Line. This is his second album under his solo band after he left Rainbow. After Holy Diver, of course. Another great record. We Rock, Last in Line. I remember seeing this video on MTV, Headbangers Ball, such a weird video. The kid from Voyager was in that. I used to watch that TV show when I was a kid. Really cool record. This is an interesting inner sleeve for this album. It just has pictures on it. No credits, nothing. I just pulled this out and I saw that. I was like, that's interesting. I'm not sure how many of my other albums are like that. Most of the time you pull out inner sleeve, there's lyrics and, a bunch of credits and stuff, but that there it just has pictures. Now this is a record that was a Record Store Day release. I'm not sure when it came out, 2016, I think. So it was the previous Record Store Day, I think. But anyway, I didn't get it on Record Store Day, but it is the Nevermoor release, The Politics of Ecstasy. This is after Sanctuary broke up. The lead singer for that band, Warrell Dane, created Nevermoor, and it's pretty much in the same vein as Sanctuary. So if you like Sanctuary, you're gonna like Nevermoor. I can almost guarantee it. This is a really good record, even though the album cover is pretty terrible. It's interesting. This comes in orange, translucent. Yeah, this. But I got into Nevermoor on this record back when it came out. I, was into Sanctuary. Long Since Dark is one of my favorite records of all time. Love that record. And then I missed out on the first record, and this is the second record from Nevermoor. But when I saw this and I found out Warrell Dane was on this record, like when it came out, and it was hard to find out stuff back then. Magazines and stuff was pretty much the only way. I guess that there was some internet, but I can't remember where I figured it out. But I definitely figured out that Warrell was in this band, and I needed to buy it, and it was so good back then. And then, there was a Record Store Day release on orange vinyl, and I picked that up for sure. This is a great, U.S. metal, heavy metal, power metal band, if you want to say, but not really. More just like straight up heavy metal. And it's great. It's really good. Really like Warrell Dane. Really like Nevermoor. Really like Sanctuary. Next record I picked up was released January 26, 2006. It's the 8th studio album from Cathedral. Found this in the used bin. It was one of the used bin records that I found that was still sealed. Sometimes, record stores get records from people who haven't opened their record yet. So this was still sealed, and I just picked it up. It was inexpensive, when I saw it. I think it's on blue vinyl. Yeah, you can't really tell. It looks black, but it's kind of like a dark blue. It's a pretty interesting record. I haven't listened to this record too much, but I did listen to it before I made this video. There's a really good song on here called Corpse Cycle, which is really, really good. This is doom, 70s, 70s heavy metal doom, if you will, kind of like, more, modern as well, of course, but, definitely inspired by 70s hard rock, bands. And this is more of a rockin' record than it is a doom. It has doom elements, but they really lean into the hard rock on this record. And the vocals are interesting. They're very high, really forward in the mix. And he kind of has this forced kind of growl that he does. It seems like almost like it's not his natural singing voice. He's kind of putting it on. But it does sound interesting. It's a good record. I'm not a huge fan of Cathedral, but this record's okay, and that Corpse Cycle song is really good. And if I spend more time with this, I think I'll like it more. I pull it out every once in a while, but it didn't hit with me when I first started playing it. But I've played it a few times since then, and I again played it recently before making this, and it's pretty good. I'd say it's pretty good. The next record is in the same vein. October 12th, 2013. This is the second record from Cadaver. From what I read on this record, this album was recorded live in the studio. They did live takes of all these songs, and that's obviously not normally how records are made, at least modern records. But yeah, they wanted to have that raw feel, and in the studio, and recorded the album live. That's, I guess, probably the most interesting thing about this record, besides the fact that it's really good. Hard rock, 70s style. These guys look like they just came out of the 70s. Like the album cover is amazing. Their hair and their beards, of course, are just amazing. I could never grow a beard like that ever. But really cool 70s style hard rock metal. It's definitely on the heavier side, but really good stuff. I was 2017, 2018, when I first started collecting vinyl again, I was finding a lot of bands like this, the Cathedral style, the kind of the throwback 70s style music being recorded in the 2000s, and that sound, that raw and underproduced, not overproduced sound, that these records have on them is really, really good. There's still a lot of bands that I like that are some of my favorite records. This maybe not be one of my favorite records, but it's still a really good hard rock record. And I would say this is hard rock more than metal. It has metal in it, but it's really hard driving. Good stuff on that. The next record, it came out May 6, 2016. This is the third album from Vector. Now, the lead singer for Vector has some issues. I have some issues with the lead singer of Vector as well. based on his behaviors and stuff like that. But, you know, separating the artist from the art in this case, you know, sometimes, in some cases I can do that. Other cases I can't. You know, I think it's a case-by-case basis, and I'm not purchasing any other Vector records, but this I had already purchased. And I do like this record. It's a really good thrash record. There are other bands that are like this, that play thrash metal in this same style, that I don't necessarily need another Vector record from a guy who has the type of history that he has. But I can't deny that this is a great album. The other musicians on this album shouldn't be punished necessarily for, you know, this guy's attitude and, you know, his issues with what he had going on or has going on. So, you know, other than the lead singer on this band, great performances on here. The vocals are unique. You know, they're not straight up thrash metal. They're kind of like, you know, I guess maybe in the Creator style. You know, really low, scratchy vocals. Not death metal vocals, but really growly. And the record is very fast too. It's very fast thrash metal. They don't really slow down a lot on this. Not a lot of grooves on here, you know, or breakdowns. And there's a lot of unique parts to each song. You know, like there's these sections of songs. I mean, they're really long. You know, like songs are like 9, 8 minutes, 7 minutes long. You know, so there's some really long songs on here, and they go on and on and on. But they put a lot of uniqueness in there. So that's what's pretty cool about this thrash record. And it was on a lot of top 10 lists the year it came out. So, you know, if you want to pick it up, great. You know, I'm not buying any more Vector records, but I am going to keep this one. And I did listen to it before making this video, and it's still really, really good. It's Vector. Now, I mentioned this already in a previous video, but this came out February 3rd, 2017. This is the 5th studio album from Horisont, one of my favorite all-time bands. This record is really, really, really good. Of course, I'm going to say that because Horisont is amazing. These guys are so, so good. This I have on the yellow. It's a little bit translucent, you know, it's like more Coke bottle yellow. And yeah, fantastic record. These guys did a cover song on here from Richard Harris called The Hive. And they made it their own. You know, cover songs, they really should be, the bands that do them should not try to make exact replicas of the covers of the original song. That just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, maybe some of them are good, maybe some of them are okay. Maybe if I never heard the song before and they did an exact, you know, or a near exact replica, I might like that version, you know, more than the original, but that's only if I'd never heard the song before. But in this case, the song The Hive sounds almost nothing like, besides the melody, you know, but nothing like the original, but the lyrics are so haunting and crazy. And that song is so strange. And Horisont puts their own take on it, and they did such a great job. But again, another 70s style hard rock metal record. You know, pick up every Horisont record because they're all good. Every Horisont record is good, including this one. I can't wait for their new album if they make a new one. I haven't really looked up to see what they're up to lately, but I really, really hope they have something new coming out soon. The last record was really good. This record is great. All Horisont is great. All right, so that's the metal that I bought. This is some of the glam metal that I picked up. So one of the first records that I picked up was released November 2nd, 1987. That's Dokken, Back for the Attack. Just found this in the bins used. Great Dokken record. They're definitely more polished on this record in the studio. This record is long too. It's like 60 minutes of music on this one record, but it still sounds good. I don't think that, you know, putting that, I mean, obviously there's audiophile and then there's kind of this type release. Of course, it's probably going to sound better, you know, in an audiophile release, maybe at 45 RPM or whatever, 3 songs per side, but I hate that. You know, minimum of 4 songs, especially if they're only 4 minutes long or 5 minutes long. You can do that. 17 to 20 minutes on one side of a record is fine. 30 minutes is pushing it. I don't disagree, the most thing I find with records that have, 30 minutes or 25 or more minutes on each side is that they do have a little more noise in them, like more popping. Like if dust gets on them, it seems to be more prominent, that it picks it up more easily, I guess. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but obviously, but I think anyway, regardless, I think it's just part of the side effects of having that much music on one record. But I still like having that much music because I love vinyl and I like flipping my records, but I don't like flipping them every 10 minutes. So this record is great. The Kiss of Death is such a freaking good song. What a great way to start that album. This album, it's one of the best, a classic. Everybody should have this if you're into glam metal. And the guys were in peak performance here. Dream Warriors is on this. I remember when I was in high school or junior high, I was at the mall and I snuck into the screening of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and saw that movie. Before I was supposed to be, before I was 18 or 17 for sure, and loved that movie. And Dream Warriors was on it, so I was aware of Dokken, back before I actually got into them. And honestly, Heaven Sent was one of the first videos I ever saw on Headbangers Ball, and I had already had this album. I was like, I thought that was so cool. When I was a kid, I was like, I didn't know Headbangers Ball existed until, I spent the night at my cousin's house one time, and I was just flipping through the TV, trying to stay up as late as I could. And I saw a Heaven Sent video. I was like, I know this song. What is going on? So I knew that. And, obviously the record was even better, from having that memory about it. And discovering Headbangers Ball is just a rite of passage for any kid from the 80s. And good record from Dokken. The next record that I got came out February 29th, 1988. And this is the first. That record was the fourth record from Dokken. This is the first album from a band called Kingdom Come. These guys had a big hit off this record called Get It On. And they were, put into a category of a Led Zeppelin ripoff at the time. And of course, it's obvious they're borrowing from Led Zeppelin. There's no doubt about that. Especially with, kind of like the song structures and stuff like that, and Lenny Wolf's vocals. But Lenny Wolf, that's just his voice. He's not putting that on. So, he took advantage of having a voice similar to Robert Plant, and he's lucky that he was in a rock band and the singer, because it sounds amazing. And these songs are really good. Lenny Wolf is still making records. He's made so many records under Kingdom Come. He basically is Kingdom Come. This record was the first in those, of his albums, and came right out on Polygram, like they, major label debut. So it's a really good record. Lots of good songs on here. Get It On, Living Out of Touch, Pushing Hard, has the power ballads, What Love Can Be, Loving You, I think is the other power ballad on here. Really good though, really good stuff. Lenny Wolf is a great singer. He actually sang on an Arion record, the Arion record that I showed. I think I showed it previously, the first one that he recorded. He's a great singer. This is a good album. I don't crap on this album at all. I like it a lot. Get It On. I saw that video on MTV. Loved it. Bought the album. Had it back then. Found this just in the bins again. I think Second and Charles was just sitting there. Boom. Picked it up. It was easy. I don't think you're going to find a lot of stuff at Second and Charles anymore. At least stuff like that, or unless you're super lucky. All the used records, man. It's really hard finding used stuff now. That's really good. When I started collecting again, like I said, in 2017, I started getting really lucky with all the stuff I was getting, especially the price. I think that Kingdom Come record is too expensive right now. It's silly. I probably got it for $15. Anyway, this one is, okay, now we're getting into some just hard rock from the 70s. Yeah, all from the 70s and early 80s. 70s and early 80s hard rock stuff is what's next. This is The Doors, absolutely live. I love The Doors live. I love The Doors. I know not a lot of people like The Doors. People always poop on The Doors, but I like The Doors. I think Jim Morrison's a great singer. I like listening to his, lyrics and stuff like that. So I do enjoy The Doors, Ray Manzarek, the whole guys, you know, great band. I do like the movie too. You know, I think it does a good job representing that time period. You know, good, bad, or other, whatever, you know, it's a good movie. Good album. The Doors live are just amazing. So many albums that keep coming out of their live stuff, especially Record Store Day. They have a release, at least one release every year. A lot of times it's live, just because it is cool. I mean, they recorded, from what I read, I think I read a book about them a long time. They recorded almost every live show, you know, from a certain point on, video and audio. I think they recorded a lot of their stuff on video too, but audio, definitely they recorded a lot of their stuff. So Absolutely Live is a great album. It has one of the best renditions of Celebration of the Lizard King. It's the only way to listen to that song, that entire song, and, you know, the interludes and stuff like that. Not to Touch the Earth is my favorite part of the Lizard King, Celebration of the Lizard King. Really good stuff. I like Jim Morrison, I like the Doors. All right. Next one is Alice Cooper, Killer. This came out, this was his fourth record, his fourth solo record. Well, yeah, it's all he ever, well, this is the fourth record under Alice Cooper, the band. November 27, 1971. My mom had this record when she was a kid. I was scared shitless of this album. Like, this cover and this back cover especially freaked me the fuck out when I was a kid. I would look at that and I would just be like, these guys are fucking evil. I actually scratched the record when I was a kid because I was so scared of it. It's so funny. It's a funny story, I guess. This is original press from a green, but it doesn't have the calendar. But this was actually given to me by a friend. He had a couple copies. I think these were from his parents. This record is not in great shape. It's definitely a VG. Even though it's kind of poppy and noisy, I still listen to it. I love it. I haven't gotten a replacement copy yet. I just like having this version of it. I don't know why. And I kind of just don't want to, I really don't buy anything I already have usually. That's extremely rare for me. Even if I have a bad copy of it, like a VG copy. And not that I haven't done it at all, but I don't do it very frequently. I still haven't done it with this album. Maybe I'd get a reissue or something, but I would still hold on to this. It's a cool record. It's probably my favorite Alice Cooper record. Again, these fuckers are scary as fuck back here. This is one of the scariest back covers of any album ever. Don't let anybody tell you any different. And yeah, saw Alice Cooper open for Motley Crue on their final tour. I love Alice Cooper. I have most of his albums, you know, early presses. Really good stuff. I like the ring wear. I like that this record was loved. And I like to say that, you know, it's well loved. It's not in bad shape. It was just well loved. Great Alice Cooper record. One of my favorite songs, Halo Flies, is on here. Killer is a great song too. You Drive Me Nervous. Desperado is great. Every song on here is great. Every song must own. This one came out December 1st, 1972. It's the fourth album by Gentle Giant. This is Octopus. I have the die cut record, you know, the die cut cover, you know, with the jar and the blue insert that comes with it to make it look like water, I guess. You can see the die cut. Yeah, this is an interesting record. I bought this record. I was reading a lot about Opeth, you know, and what, you know, in vinyl records that Mikael Åkerfeldt was buying in some of his favorite bands, and he had mentioned Gentle Giant. I'd never heard Gentle Giant, but I trusted Mikael Åkerfeldt, and I bought this record. This is a wild record. It's I don't know. To me, it sounds like, you know, just a bunch of stuck-up music nerds, you know, come out of school thinking they're geniuses and writing all this crazy stuff. And maybe they are, and, you know, maybe this music is really, you know, I can appreciate it for what it is. It's just I can't put this record on all the time and just listen to it. I really have to sit down and concentrate if I'm going to pay attention to it, because I get lost on this record. I think anybody kind of would. It's just, you know, it's not straightforward music. It's kind of all over the place. But it's a very unique listen, and it's still a good record. It sounds great, you know, and the musicianship is amazing. And there's a couple songs on here that are just kind of, I would say, more normal, you know. Think of Me With Kindness is the song on here that I think is really cool. I listened to that one and I put it on the playlist. It was one of the higher rated ones from this album, and it kind of forced me to listen to it. And it's a pretty good song, but it's definitely probably one of the more straightforward songs on here that actually has kind of a little bit of a melodic chorus to it. But anyway, Gentle Giant, this is the die cutout version of Octopus. Interesting record. It's good. It's just, you got to really be into prog rock, to like this. And yeah, it's a risk if you're not, but if you can take the jump and go into the, crazy prog rock music, this is one of the records you probably should have, because it's pretty well regarded, kind of, from what I read, but it's all over the place. It's a very interesting listen. You can easily get distracted and stop paying attention to it if you're not really into it. That's that one. The next record I got came out in November 8, 1974. It's the 11th album, but it's not really it's a greatest hits record. And it's Elton John's greatest hits, the first one. There's some really good songs on here. Your Song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I have Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, the whole album, so I would listen to that more. I don't have a lot of Elton John records, but, his greatest hits, his hits are good. That's the cool thing about Elton John. He does have good hits. Has some really cool pictures of Elton John when he was young, which is interesting. He's kind of changed a lot from when he looked young till he looks now. Some guys, they look very similar, but I think he's changed a lot over his, lifetime. But anyway, Elton John is great. Has some really good songs on here, of course. Rockin' Man, Betting the Jets. Good stuff. Elton John's greatest hits. Can't go wrong, really. This one came out February 10th, 1978. I didn't put this in with the glam, but it was definitely the start of glam. I mean, every guitar player who played glam metal in the 80s cannot deny that Eddie Van Halen was a inspiration. They're lying if they say they're not. I mean, even the sleaze guys, probably worshipped this guy and wanted to play like him, but they couldn't, right? But anyway, David Lee Roth and the guys, Eddie Van Halen, amazing record. The sound on this record, I can't really say anything that anybody else has ever said, but Eddie Van Halen's guitar sound, his guitar tone, and, it's a really heavy sound. I mean, the guitar is so upfront on this record and so clear. I feel like, you can hear him play, like it's right in front of you, like he's still playing this record live every time I play it. It's so great. Has such a great sound. One of the greatest, hard rock, not really heavy metal, but hard rock records ever, really. I mean, there are some songs on here that aren't great, but the songs that are great and what it did to influence music, it just can't be denied. Van Halen, self-titled. All right, the next record, May 5th, 1978, the 10th studio album, but the second with the Silver Bullet Band. Bob Seger. This is on another one from when I was a kid. FM radio staple. I heard all these songs on FM radio, WLLZ, WRIF. Stranger in Town, great record. Hollywood Nights, still the same. Old Time Rock and Roll, of course, is on here. Till It Shines is a great song. Feels Like a Number. Side 2 probably isn't as good. Not as many hits on there, but I can still listen to Side 2. It's still good. Side 1 definitely has all the hits on it. The thing I like about Bob Seger, man, especially the early stuff like this, is his lyrics are just so freaking good. They really paint a picture, man, don't they? I mean, you feel like, like when he's singing about Hollywood Nights, meeting the girl, being, a rock and roll star, trying to, up and come in the LA scene, it just, paints a picture, and it really puts you there. Still the same song about his dad's gambling addiction, Old Time Rock and Roll, of course, just all these songs, all his lyrics really paint a good picture. I really like Bob Seger for that, just alone. Live, he was excellent as well, and he's a Detroit guy. I'm a Detroit guy. I like a lot of the beat bands, hard rock stuff that came out of Detroit. Can't go wrong with Night Moves or Stranger in Town. I do have Night Moves as well. Stranger in Town, though, from Bob Seger. This might be my favorite of his, especially side 1 on this record. You can't go wrong. I mean, you could put that on repeat, if you have a record player that does repeat of side 1, you don't have to flip this record ever if you don't want to. All those songs are great. Bob Seger, Stranger in Town, really good lyricist, great artist. Plus, that's what my hair looked like all the time, when I was younger. I looked, I didn't look like Bob Seger. My hair looked like Bob Seger, exactly like that. Love Bob Seger. All right, this, another record from when I was a kid. I was getting real nostalgic when I was buying a lot of albums early on here in the 2017. That was the main reason one of the main reasons that I started collecting vinyl was nostalgia for me. I know a lot of the younger people who get into vinyl, it's different for them. They have a different experience. But for me, it was nostalgia. I really wanted to have records again. And REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity, great album. My wife likes this record too. Her dad would play this album all the time. Great album cover as well. There's actually, he's putting on a vinyl record in the album cover, which is awesome. Of course, Keep on Loving You is on here. The first power ballad, a lot of people argue, for good or bad, right? But every 80s glam metal band, most every 80s glam metal band had a power ballad, and they all wanted it to be, a hit like Keep on Loving You. Great song. Take It on the Run. Even before I knew what bands were and I was just listening to the radio, just absorbing music as a kid, these songs are just stuck in my brain, because these were, REO Speedwagon probably was one of my first favorite bands, just radio band, because I would always love hearing Take It on the Run and Keep on Loving You on the radio. I probably as an 8 or 10-year-old kid, I was like, those are my favorite songs ever. This is kind of all the other songs on here, that weren't hits. They're kind of just like, they kind of take back to the era of the 50s and 60s, like songs like, Don't Let Him Go, Tough Guys, there's like songs on here that just have that feel of, like a 50s band, just singing about girls and stuff, and having fun. Good rock and roll record. But yeah, those two hits, Take It on the Run and Keep on Loving You, those songs are just, they're perfect songs, really. Perfect. Really good record. Again, my wife liked this record too, so I kind of picked it up for, she doesn't necessarily listen to a lot of my music, at least the vinyl record stuff. She'll tolerate when I have stuff on in the car, but if I put this on, she'll be happy that and listen while this is on. Great record from REO Speedwagon. Now this record, April 13th, 1981, another one of my favorites from when I was a kid. This is Billy Squier, Don't Say No. Love this record. When I was a kid, I was trying to, impress girls, I guess. I played the song, I played the song I Need You to a girl over the telephone once. That's pretty funny. But that was when I was like, it must have been elementary school maybe. But anyway, I love Billy Squier. This record is so good. The drumming on this record, that's the one thing that I don't necessarily hear people talk about all the time, but the drum fills on this record, especially My Kind of Lover, I love the drums. I love the drum sound. It's not like a Led Zeppelin sound or anything, and it's kind of like an early 80s, almost bad production sound, like it's almost hitting like paper, but that sound that it makes, I just love the drum sound on this. So much echo, so much reverb on this record. I just love it. I love the songs. In the Dark, The Stroke, My Kind of Lover, Lonely is the Night. All those songs are perfect songs. This record deserved to be a hit when it was. However many millions of copies it sold. This might be a desert island record for me. It really might be. It could be. Just because of the nostalgia, because I loved those songs so much, those hits, and I just love the sound. I like the production on this record. I don't think they've ever remixed it. I think it's only ever been, if it has been remixed, it was a mistake. They should never have done that. But I think somebody was putting out a newer release of this, one of the audiophile companies. I'm not sure which one, but hopefully that comes out. I might actually pick that up because, I normally don't buy the same record twice, but I might do it for this. Really good record. Billy Squier, Don't Say No. more nostalgic for me maybe, but still a great record. Good songs too. I always liked the inner sleeve with the hand coming out. I thought that was really cool. When I was a kid, I was like, that's awesome. I always liked that. That was funny. Some more hard rock records. Triumph, Allied Forces. This came out September 19th, 1981. It's their 5th studio album. Can't go wrong with Triumph. I'm starting to get into more of their stuff now. I'm buying a lot of the other Triumph records. Allied Forces, though, is probably might have been their biggest one. I'm not sure. Has Magic Power on it. Fight the Good Fight. Those 2 songs were huge hits for this band. Canadian band. Triumph, Allied Forces. There's a documentary from Banger TV on these guys that I still haven't seen that I really want to see. I want to learn more about these guys. Rick Emmett, the vocalist, is freaking great. Sounds a lot like Geddy Lee. Like if you like Geddy Lee or you like high vocals, this guy's amazing. Triumph is they're a solid band. May not be one of the best hard rock bands ever, but a solid band that put out some great records. Like I said, I've been getting some of their other stuff. Late on the Line, actually, a song from a previous record of theirs was on a compilation that I had when I was a kid, and I really liked that song. So that's a good song as well. But this album is really good. When I was in high school, they would play these at parties. I went to a few parties when I was in high school, and this album was, the few songs from this album, Magic Power and stuff, were always played, even though it was before. I was late 80s is when I was in high school, so this album is old by then as well. But it's still a record that is respected today. The band is still respected today. Really good stuff. Triumph, good hard rock record from Canada. Now here's an underrated hard rock record. This one came out January 12th, 1987. It's the 12th studio album from Deep Purple. Again, nostalgic for me. This was my first Deep Purple. I bought it on cassette back then. I bought it in 1987. Must have been sometime in the summer. When I was a kid, or in 1987, I was listening to the radio, and they were doing an interview with Deep Purple and their new album, House of Blue Light. They were playing songs off this record, and then the band was talking about those songs. I was fascinated because I'd never heard, the artist before, really, ever. When you're a kid on the radio, they don't really play, interviews from artists very often. Especially back then, in the 80s, it was just the music and the DJ, maybe saying 1 or 2 things about the song before he put it on, and then he'd play like 7 songs or whatever. But when this album came out, they did they had an interview session. Maybe it was like recorded for some type of radio show, and the guys in the band were talking about the songs, and I was like, this is really cool. Like I'm learning like how a song is written, what inspired the song. And there's a song on here called Mitzi Dupree, which I love that song. It's like a bluesy, Deep Purple song, and it's about, I think it was Ian Gillan who wrote it, who wrote the lyrics. Let me double check. But he talked about, it's not going to tell me who wrote the lyrics, but he was talking about how he met this woman on an airplane, and started talking to her, Mitzi Dupree. And I guess she was a stripper who did a strip show with the ping pong. Use your imagination for that. But, and he just kind of hit it off with her. And, then he wrote a song. He was influenced like by that conversation he had with her, that he wrote that song. And I thought, true or not, whatever. But, hearing these guys talk about these songs, and this is a good record. I know that even Deep Purple, some of the guys in Deep Purple have come out and said this is not a good record, or not their favorite or whatever, but I like it, man. I think it's great. Bad Attitude is a good song. Unwritten Law is great. Mitzi Dupree is great. Those are probably the best songs on here. But because I had this record when I was a kid and I had it on cassette and I listened to all the songs, even then, it took me a while to kind of get used to the songs I didn't like. But over time, especially when you're a kid and you only have like 4 or 5 cassette tapes or whatever, you're going to listen to them over and over and over again, and those songs are just going to grow on you. So that's what happened with this record for me. But I would still recommend this record because I think it's a good record. I think it's fun. And just for those songs, 3 songs alone, they're really good. I mean, if you just want to listen to those on a playlist, you can. But, some of these other songs are pretty decent. And, Richie Blackmore playing guitar, like the whole band is on here. So, this was kind of their second comeback record, I think, after they had reformed. Good record, underrated in my opinion. Deep Purple, House of Blue Light. I love the album cover too. I think the album cover is really cool. Some of the other stuff in here is kind of silly, but you know, they actually have visual references to some of their songs. You know, like they have an archer, you know, an arrow and stuff like that. So anyway, this is underrated, I think, and it's a good record, House of Blue Light. Only a couple more to go for February. This is the soundtrack section. I bought two. Well, this is the only soundtrack, but this came out. This is from a movie that came out in 1984. It's a movie called Trancers. Now, I love this movie. Such a silly movie, but it's a really cool silly movie. It has the 1 second watch where you can slow time down for 1 second and just do all kinds of crazy stuff. But this is Trancers. Jack Death is the star of the movie, or that's not the actor. I forget the actor. Tim Thomerson is the actor. He plays Jack Death. He's like a noir private eye from the future who has to go to the past, and he meets Helen Hunt. She's a little punk girl, punk girl, hanging out in the clubs, and him and her try to find, you know, the plot of this movie is ridiculous. Try to find the descendants of the early ancestors of this crime guy who, you know, wants to kill some guy, his enemy or something like that, so he doesn't exist in the future. Anyway, it's crazy. It's a good movie though. Don't let my description dissuade you. And there was four sequels? I mean, how could a movie that has 5 movies in its reign of films be bad? I mean, they made 5 of them. They all have to be. That has to be great, right? But anyway, Trancers is like an 80s synth soundtrack. It's good. It fits the movie really well, and I like a lot of that synth stuff. And I'll talk about another record right now. This is almost the exact opposite of that. Not necessarily the opposite, but it's, you know, came out in August 24th, 2014. This is Voyager, Doom Fortress, and this is a retro band of that type of synthwave music, you know. So, but this is in the 2000s, you know, and of bands who are taking that, and these guys are really good. Like, they're not, you know, they weren't jumping on the bandwagon necessarily. I don't think. They take it really seriously and they do a good job. You know, they have all the instruments, you know, they have the stuff from the 80s that they used, I think, I'm not 100% sure about that, but it really sounds authentic, more authentic, you know, than some of the other stuff I've heard that just isn't as, I guess, as good of songwriting. I think these guys would have fit in perfectly back then with Goblin, you know, and those type of bands. Voyager with a 3 instead of an E as their band title. There's 3 guys in the band. Doom Fortress. This is kind of like their horror soundtrack. A song they're summoning the Forgotten One, Cthulhu type reference. But yeah, this is a good listen, especially if you like synth from the 80s, bands like Goblin and such. You're gonna like this, I think. Really good band, really good album from Voyager. I think it was their first record, so yeah. Was it the first? I think it was their first album. Good record, Doom Fortress, Voyager. Pick this up if you like synthwave. And the last record, finally. This is a record, came out September 22nd, 2009. This is her 3rd solo record from Rose Melberg. I really love Rose Melberg. I think she's great. I love Tiger Trap. I have that on vinyl. I got that really cheap too, believe it or not. And I have a couple Softies records. I love the Softies. I think they're great. I like Rose Melberg. I love her voice. I like her playing. This is just basically an all acoustic record. More reminiscent of the Softies, which I like. There's a really good song in here that I put on the playlist. The Things That We Do. It's the first song on here. Really good song. You know, it's just acoustic, so you know, it takes a little bit to get into, and it's just her and her voice. Not a lot of other instrumentation on here. really minimalist, which I liked, which is what I really liked about the Softies. The Softies probably has better songs overall, or maybe I'm just more, like those songs more because I listen to them more. But I do pull out this record every once in a while if I want to listen to something acoustic. It's really good. Rose Melberg is great. She's a really good songwriter. I think she owns like a pet store now somewhere, and maybe I don't even know where, but I think that's awesome. She's great. I really like her. I wish the Softies were still together, and they still made music. But I'll live with Rose. She had done other side projects as well in the indie scene. So this isn't the only thing you can find. Like if you look her up, just in general, she's been in a lot of different projects. And I wish more stuff from the '90s that she was in came out on vinyl and was reissued, because there's some really, really good stuff, especially her other solo albums. I don't think that they're out on vinyl. This one is. I got it just on black. K Records, of course. She's pretty much done almost all her stuff on K Records, or at least a lot of it. K Records is another great, in the '90s indie. Lot of female artists on there, which was awesome. So many good female bands, either all female or mostly female bands. Really good stuff. K Records is really cool. Beat Happening was on there. I don't have any Beat Happening records, but those are all expensive now too. It's crazy, all that stuff. But anyway, that's the last record out of all the ones that I bought in February 2017. I'm going to keep making these even if I'm the only one watching them, or one or two other people. I think it's fun. I really like listening to what people are buying. I like vinyl haul videos, so that's why I chose to do this. And plus I kind of want to catalog, everything that I bought, and it's really given me a reason to listen to this stuff again, to sit back and, play the Rose Melberg record that I haven't played in, 6 months or a year. I'll just sit back and play it before I make this video and be like, yeah, I remember these songs are great. Just so I have something a little bit to say, and I'll do a little bit of research on the band. But anyway, thank you for watching. There's a playlist that you can listen to if you want, a Spotify playlist of one song from each of these, again, which lets me listen to those songs again. I'm going to keep making these. Thanks. Bye.